Welcome back to the show, everybody. My name is Chandler Kohn with Focus Investment Banking. We're an M&A and capital raising platform for the automotive and heavy-duty aftermarket space. Today, I have on Lenn Isaac. Excited to have you on Whitestone Fleet Service. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and let's kick it off.
I'm Lenn Isaac. I'm the CEO of Whitestone Fleet Service. Started this company a little under 3 years ago, and we are currently expanding across the East Coast and just dominating the industry the best we can.
Love to hear it. Tell us about how many states you're in, how many employees you have, and the number of trucks.
Currently, we are in 13 states and growing. We are currently sitting around just under 40 trucks, and we are constantly getting more trucks in every day. We just had 2 delivered yesterday, and we got 2 more coming in next week.
Awesome. And how many employees?
We got a total of 36 employees currently.
36, not 100% mobile, right?
We are 100% mobile, no brick and mortar.
Okay, so let's step back to the origin and the growth story here. You opened up this in June 2023, not even 3 years ago. Ryder launched Torque by Ryder the same summer. The mobile repair market, according to Mortar Intelligence and some of these other industry publications, say that it's grown at 9% a year. Almost triple the rate of a shop-based repair business. You both saw something at the same time, and I'm sure kind of others did too, but obviously you've grown very successfully. Take us back to that moment in June 2023. What were you doing before this, and what made you say, I'm going to start a mobile truck repair company?
Well, this is kind of a multi-phased answer. When I first started, I've always wanted to do my own thing, but fronting the capital to get started was always like an eyesore. So I actually started Whitestone out as Whitestone Pressure Washing, which is where the term Whitestone came from.
Got it.
And as I was doing that, I was doing it in the morning. I was making pretty decent money while also working my mobile job between Dickinson or Prestige, whichever one I was at the time. And as I was working there, there was something that happened at Dickinson that had made, or Cox, that had made my customer base very upset. And they had basically asked if I would be willing to move companies because they could no longer work with that company, but they didn't want to lose me as a tech. So I had said, sure. And I went to, well, back up a little bit. When I said sure, they actually were trying to get me to start my own company at that time, but I had a lot of reservations on it. Like, I don't have the insurance. I don't have a truck. I can't afford to front the parts. All that stuff came into play. So I ended up going to Prestige. Well, that lasted maybe 6 months. And then Prestige had really made my biggest client today, currently with Whitestone, very upset. And basically one of their higher ups in the company had called me and wanted to put a serious inquiry together with me about trying to help me start a company up because they wanted to use me as a tech. And they felt like they were getting shafted on the backside because they talked to me multiple times to see how I'm doing my billing, but what I was billing wasn't matching up with what was being billed to them in the background. And they were willing to go out of their way, bend some rules a little bit to get me started. They put me on like a net 7 pay to begin with, and they told me basically just try not to spend any money in parts, do labor-only jobs for us, whether it be greasing trailers, doing DOT inspections, whatever it was to get started. And I agreed. I said, okay, yeah, let's try it. Well, at the same time, I'd worked with other customers such as LKQ, Chemi, stuff like that, who I'd always heard had problems with techs when they leave. They didn't return their keys. Well, that one simple gesture of me returning that key like nobody else has before, when I went to give it back to them, they basically said, where are you going? They liked me as a tech. And I said, well, I'm going to go try to start my own thing. And they're like, well, why don't you come work for us on your company? I'm like, I can't. I was like, what do you mean you can't? I said, I'm not a vendor with Wheels. I'm not a vendor with Element. I was like, I can't do that. Well, they actually sponsored me in immediately on day one into the auto integrate system in order to work on their trucks through Donlin at the time, which is now Wheels today. And it kind of snowballed out of control after that. When customer to customer I went to, I ended up having a total of 5 customers leave with me on day one, which was not my intention at all. It was supposed to be just taking Carter Lumber with me and working with Carter Lumber, and I was basically going to be a Carter Lumber service provider. And it just worked out really well. They bent the rules really well for me, and I was on the grind for 6-7 months. I was producing about $160,000 a month out of a truck with just myself. Granted, I was working myself into the grave doing it, but I was working like crazy on that. And it got to the point where I couldn't do it alone anymore, and I had to start hiring people.
That's helpful. I really appreciate the background there. A lot of what we see in mobile is you have 3 to 5 trucks, 3 to 8 trucks. The owners dispatching, quoting, invoicing, even turning wrenches. Right? When did you stop turning the wrench yourself, and what broke when you did? I mean, that's obviously hard to pass the reins on. How did that work out for you?
So when I got to, I believe it was 4 or 5 trucks, is when I realized the back office was starting to stack up. I couldn't keep up with what I was doing in the field and the office at the same time, because in the beginning, I only hired like top tier people. I didn't hire anybody that was like a B tech or a C tech. I only exclusively hired A techs.
Yeah.
So they knew what they were doing. They were getting their invoices in quickly. It started backing up. So that's when I stepped out of the truck part-time. Full-time step out of the truck probably came closer to 7 to 8 techs. That's when I stepped out full-time, and I actually ended up hiring a manager in to help me manage the techs at that point too, which was actually Lou Wall, my COO. And we grew with him up to 10 techs.
Mm-hmm.
And then we hit that next jump to where you start struggling to get to the next level. But the big thing, I guess, that separated for me was, I guess, not being on the ground level and hearing the customer complaints on a day-to-day basis. And I noticed a lot of the things that I know should be looked at were being overlooked by the techs on site, and that aggravated me a lot. And a millionaire gave me some of the best advice I think I've ever received, which is part of the reason my company scaled so well. He told me, because I was firing a lot of people in the beginning, he said, you cannot hold anybody who works for you to the same standard you have. And I kind of argued at first, like, what do you mean? And he told me that he's like, nobody is going to care about this company as much as Lenn Isaac. He said, you need to hold your employees to basically an 80% standard of whatever your standard is. And he said, that's a real world standard that is scalable, that can be used to stretch across all markets of the country. And I've kind of held true to that. And that was really a turning point to where we started to take off, is when I started actually embracing that advice.
Yeah, I think that is really good advice. I mean, you're the only person that, theoretically owns the company when you start it, right? And you're the one with the skin in the game. So totally understand that. And I think 80% is probably a good number. When you enter a new state, what's the playbook there? How do you land your first customer? This is a chicken and the egg. So do you have the truck and sell the truck kind of, hey, it's in the city? Or do you try to go get the customer and to get the truck down there real quick? What does that look like?
So the playbook today for that's way different than it was in the beginning. In the beginning, we just kind of fed off our own customer base. Like, hey, where you need help at, we'll help you. We would drop ship a tech in, ship them across from Ohio to, say, Philadelphia to begin with. And we ship them out there, and we basically build around that tech and use the accounts such as Carter Lumber, for example, or one of Superior's propane companies. And we use that as a anchor to build around. I've never been one to throw a tech into an area making no money, mainly because, well, I don't come from money, so I have to do things kind of smart.
Yeah, I totally get that.
Now,
and then
today,
yeah,
today we do it a little differently. Now we're national home providers. We are one of 3 companies on the entire country that are national home provider. So today we actually just landed our first deal with them, because we got this deal right around TMC time in 26. And what we can do now is basically Holman approaches us with accounts and says, hey, this is where we need help. And then we decide, like, hey, can we help them there? And then we use those as our anchor accounts, and we build off of that. That's what our goal model moving forward is to build off of the Holman model, since we've kind of embraced the Holman.
Nice. Well, TMC 26 was about 3 weeks ago, right?
Yep. We just signed it not long ago. Been a long time in the making. We went from being, just regular home loan providers to being affiliated partners, and now we're national partners. From my understanding, we have one of the highest customer service feedback ratings ever. We came back at a
Awesome.
9.56 rating.
That's great. And TMC, by the way, that was an excellent show. I was there too. And I really got a lot out of it. I was at the heavy duty repair collision forum too, that they put on, the heavy duty repair forum. And I thought that was a very productive show this year. So obviously you did too. The next category in this podcast is about building the team and letting go. This is something that obviously, a lot of owners struggle with. It's hard to let go. You have a COO, a VP of ops, and a VP of sales and marketing. That's, fairly heavy leadership team, especially for a company that's not even 3 years old. Remind us again how you found those guys.
So Lou is actually my boss when I was at Dickinson, and he was one of my favorite bosses I've ever actually had, ever. Well, when Cox bought into Dickinson, they let go of a lot of people, and he was one of the ones that got let go, and he actually was retired. I actually pulled him out of retirement and brought him back into the game. He was actually retired working on fire trucks up in Akron part-time, just enjoying his life. But I yanked him back into the game because he believed in what I told him. And now he's over here. Harry just kind of fell in my lap. That's your VP of Ops? That's my VP of Ops, yes. He kind of fell into my lap. I got told one day about him, and I just decided, you know what? I'll call him. And that was just kind of the stars aligning. He says he never answers the phone for anybody randomly, especially when he's working on his race cars. Mm-hmm. Well, for some reason that day he picked up the phone for me. He was also retired. He was out of the game. He was done. He got done real dirty at I guess two of his past employers before that. And he was just done with the game. And he said I said two things to him that drug him back in. One is I admitted that I don't know everything, and two was that I needed help from the people that I experience in the industry. And he said, coming from somebody as young as me and of my position, he says he's never heard anybody admit that. So that drew him in and made him want to work for me. And then my VP of sales, Kevin Kohn, I was searching for sales guys for a while, and Kevin Kane's name kept popping up. And I worked a deal to get him over here. And that was just a standard recruiting process of talking to some of the popular names in the industry. And me and him ended up working out to having a deal, and he ended up agreed to coming over here.
In early stage, you may have not, I mean, maybe you had the cash flow to pay for that, but that's kind of a heavy lift, 4-person leadership team early on.
Correct.
I can kind of do the math there on my end. Did you ever have any hesitations from the kind of the cash compensation side of things?
Well, when I hired Kevin, I had my investment by Roebling by that point. They had put some money behind us, and that was used to help build my infrastructure, basically, because up until that point, we really didn't have much of an infrastructure. We were just I bootstrapped the whole thing up to that point. But yeah, no, there's always capital concerns when you're growing as fast as we are. I mean, there's not many companies out there that are growing 23 to 33% month over month for 7 months in a row. We tripled our size in 7 months. So yeah, there's definitely been times where I said, oh crap, I got too far in front of my feet, for lack of better words. And we had to step back. That has happened. Yeah, absolutely. As far as them being expensive, I mean, yeah, they are, but you're investing into what you want. Could I step back and grow slower? Sure. But if you got a partner behind you that's willing to help you front it and get over the humps and get there 5 times faster, and you might have to give up a little bit to get there faster. I mean, if you can save 3-4 years along the way, why wouldn't you? If you got to give up a little bit of equity, so be it.
Yeah, it's how the world works, right? And generally, when you receive an investment, right, minority or majority, whatever that is, I mean, the CEO is responsible for going and building out that team with the help of the investor, who's generally kind of operational focused. So that playbook is done over and over again, and it generally works. Let's talk about the operations of this pure mobile model. Over 80% of heavy duty shops now offer mobile as an add-on service line. This is according to Mordor Intelligence Mobile Vehicle Repair Service Market 2025 report. You're 100% mobile, no shop at all. The last guest I had on, I don't know if you know Josh Goodman with Goody's Fleet Solution down in Florida. He has a 30,000 square foot shop plus mobile units. If everybody's adding mobile, what's the advantage of being only mobile? Is a pure play mobile business a better business than kind of adding that service line on?
Biggest thing is mobile and shop are two totally different business models. I have yet to see a company that can do both of them perfectly and do them both well. People are usually, if the CEO is usually either good at mobile or the CEO is good at shop. I think Dickinson, Prestige, them are all great examples of it. And if you were ever a tech like I was down in the field, you heard it from your customers every single day. If you ever sent a truck to the shop, it was always messed up because they were really good at mobile. And vice versa. You get companies like Rush Truck Centers, you go to customers' lots and you hear how bad they are at mobile, but they're really good at shop. So my thing with not wanting brick and mortar, at least not immediately, is we're good at mobile. That's what we do. That's what we're really good at. We have really high satisfaction ratings. We have really good just overall repairs in that area. Their quality or the breakdown rates are extremely low. And when it comes to shops, I mean, here's my thing with a shop, and I tell everybody this, especially when you're mobile. Generally speaking, the smarter technicians you hire are going to work mobile because they're alone, they're by themselves, they have no support, they're just out there by themselves at midnight with a wrench and a truck. Yeah. If they can't figure it out, they're dead in the water. So if them are your smarter technicians and they can't figure something out, generally speaking, the new guys of the industry, they start in shops, they go to shops, that's where they're doing their learning. A lot of shops are ran more, for lack of better words, like a union. I don't want to say lazier people, but less ambitious people typically work in shops. Now, granted, that's not always the case. But for me working in shops until I went mobile, that is 100% the reality of the situation. So if the guy in the field can't figure it out, he's your smart guy. You're sending a problem he can't figure it out and diagnose to somebody who doesn't know as much as him, for lack of better words. Yeah. To me, it's a self-creating problem. And I noticed it at everywhere I've worked prior to here like crazy. And it always caused problems. So what I do specifically is I just work the mobile. I know a few people that are really good in the shop-based side of things. And I say, hey, these guys are really good at shop. So just work with these guys and they will take great care of you. We'll take great care of you on the mobile side. But when it comes to needing an engine, needing a transmission, needing a computer flash or whatever it may be, these are your guys over here. This is what they excel at. And there's a company in Dayton specifically that I use that I've been using since the beginning whenever I run into jobs like that. And they've done an outstanding job. Now, once again, to your point, they are trying to offer mobile. And they have come to me multiple times asking how I'm doing what I'm doing. It's just the mindset of somebody who runs a shop and the mindset of somebody who runs a mobile is two totally different mindsets. Like the repairs are different. The way you pull in the revenue is different. Like, yes, we're all mechanics at the end of the day, but I tell everybody there's three types of mechanics, and these are all three different business models. You have your shop mechanics, which I say are like the more mellow mechanics, the union type guys who just want to go in, do their 8 and go home. Like they just want to go to work. And then you have what I call your bubblegum mechanics, which are very essential too. Those are the guys that work on the side of the road, get somebody out of the pinch as fast as humanly possible to get them out of the way of danger. And then you have what I call the prima donnas. The prima donnas is what we hire in the mobile world. They're the guys who want the best of everything. They want the best truck, the best tools, the best technology, and they also want the best pay. But for that, you get the best tech in return. You get the guy that's independent, can run his own customers, can run his own truck for the most part, and they just do an excellent job 95, 98% of the time. And to me, that is the biggest difference between shop and mobile and why I stay mobile compared to having a shop and mobile. In my opinion, they just don't mix. And anytime I've seen anybody try to mix them, and it's always ended bad.
What is the you don't have to say the actual labor rate, but the percentage difference right now between, you know, kind of what you're paying your techs in the mobile field versus maybe a shop or competitor down the road with an in-shop service capability?
Well, our pay scale works way different than everybody else's too. Like we're flat rate. So if we don't hire C techs and we only hire B and A techs, if you know anything about what you're doing, you should always be able to beat SRT times. But yeah, I would say we pay in the upper percentages of what a mobile tech should make, in my opinion. But I've also told I'm a little oversympathetic towards what I pay techs because I was a tech.
Mhm.
But I would say we definitely don't have any techs that are making under 100 grand if they're going in and doing their job every day, for sure.
Yeah. And what about your benefits packages? What does that look like? So health insurance,
Yeah, we offer all that.
vacation.
We go as far as offering pet insurance, cancer insurance. You can opt into additional life insurance, basically your standard insurance package that everybody else has with a few add-ons.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when a guy like you have a couple locations where I think it's just probably that one tech, that one truck, and they take a week off, right? They need a vacation. How do you kind of manage that down in that area? Do you go ahead and tell your clients that, hey, I'm going offline for a week down in South Carolina, or what does that look like for you?
We really don't have any markets where we don't have an overlap. That is one of
Okay.
my big rules is I don't want to do any market without an overlap for that specific reason. Somebody has a family emergency, has to go away, wants to go on vacation, gets sick. You don't want to leave your customers dead in the water. The worst thing you can do is leave a customer dead in the water with no answer. So
Yeah.
that is one thing I definitely don't do. I did that once in the beginning, and it was a fire drill, to say the least. So that was a learning lesson for me as I was growing a
Mhm.
business. But yeah, I definitely don't ever want one tech in a market only. I have a two tech minimum rule, and I prefer three.
Interesting. So let's talk about contracts here. Your site's explicit about no contracts.
Correct.
Meanwhile, Ryder is bundling mobile into subscription contracts, and the market is moving toward this truck as a service model, right? Where that cost per month stays flat and it's not chopping up and down. It's just better budgeting, right? For the fleet. Are you swimming against the current here by offering no contracts?
I don't think so. One thing I've noticed with customers under contracts is they're almost always unhappy. You might have your locations that are happy, but for the most part, they're always unhappy because when you're in a pinch and you're in a contract, you can't leave it. So, like for instance, we have a few customers here in Sharonville that want to get away from Penske, for example, but they're not allowed. Their people on site have explicitly told us, and these are giant customers, by the way. They said, "Hey, we don't want to work with them. They don't show up. They don't do their job, but we don't have a choice. We have to wait for them." And we have since, with some of these rent leasing companies, came on as vendors for them leasing companies. That way we can work for these customers. And they don't customers generally don't like contracts. And that got ruined back in the day by like the old Dickinsons of the world. Just because they were never able, like if you were mad at them, you couldn't leave. So my motto is, if you're happy with what we're doing, use us. If you're not, then okay, then we can have that conversation and see what we can do to fix it. But there's nothing locking you in. And to me, that gives a customer a massive peace of mind to know that, you know what, if this guy is screwing up, I can just say, hey, I'm going to go over here instead. Now,
Yeah.
there is downsides to it. You can have a manager switch and the manager wants to use his buddy over here, but that's only happened like maybe 3 times since I've been in business across 420 customers. So that pool of customers is so small. It's like, that to me is like, whatever. But yeah, I think not offering, or no, I shouldn't say not offering, not forcing contracts makes it easier for a customer to make a decision. It speeds up the process to us getting on site, and it makes it to where, if the customer's happy with the quality of work, then they're happy. I mean, I don't think you should be forced to use anybody you're not happy with. And
I'm
I'm a
surprised
firm
there's
believer.
I'm surprised there's no breakup fee in these contracts where, yes, they may have to pay a fee to terminate, but ultimately they get to make the decision who does the work. Have you ever heard of a breakup fee in these contracts?
I've never heard it brought up. I'm sure it probably exists, but I know I've never heard anybody bring that up. But I mean, pretty much if we ever run into it, it's never a contract with, any of like my immediate competitors. Like you don't hear of contracts with Cox anymore. You don't hear of contracts with Prestige or Ithaca or FMM or anybody. Anytime we run into contracts, it's always the same 3 people:
Yeah.
Ryder, Penske, Pack Lease.
Yeah.
Them are the 3 we always run into. Outside of that, we really don't run into it.
Okay. Let's jump into customer acquisition a bit. A lot of this business happens on referrals, word of mouth, and relationships at the end of the day. What is Kevin, your VP of sales and marketing, what is he doing day to day to generate this business?
Well, right now he's just working. I got him specifically focusing on driving this national Holman account and getting us in with there and getting us deep roots in. To me, getting into a program like that is what creates the future of where we're going to go. Amerit had their breaks back in the day that they drove down into, like the Renatech programs that fed their business to get to where it is today. And to me, in my eyes, this Holman opportunity for us, I believe, is going to be our thing that takes us to the next level. So that's what I have him really focusing on. Before that, he was just, kind of focusing on any of our anchor accounts in Florida, North Carolina, Virginia, Jersey, wherever. And he was just looking for customers around that to build us from, at the time we were doing like, I think 6.7 hours per tech to you're getting pretty close to that 10-hour per tech mark. And that's what his job he's built the density, and now we're having him focus on the more nationals.
Yeah. And then, how what would you say is the average kind of fleet size that you're looking to target?
Well, the way we categorize it over here is minnows, bass, and whales. And we have a lot of minnows. We have a lot of bass now. And now we're starting to go after whales. I would say that most of our customers fall in the bass category, which is like a mid-side fleet. The thing with that is you got to be careful with that, because you don't want to go whale hunting and not have enough bass to feed the whale, for lack of better words. That's the analogy we use over here in-house. So you don't want the whale to starve while you're hunting it. So we got to be able to. It's a balancing act game where you got to get enough bass before you start trying to go to whales, because you don't want to spend too much time on a whale, because a whale can take up to 6 months to sign. And if you're chasing whales for 6 months and you're ignoring everything else, the company will suffer.
Yeah. So I think you guys are all over social media. You got this Rags to Wrenches YouTube channel. Is that right?
Yeah, my marketing lady set that up.
Okay. Sometimes it's hard to quantify, what comes in through social versus what is just kind of general baseline branding in the background. Can you tie any revenue to any of the social marketing efforts that you guys are doing?
Absolutely. We got some of our biggest customers through, believe it or not, just my LinkedIn posts, and the podcasts. Well, we're calling them podcasts now. Originally, I was just making them as like a documenting my journey type thing, but now I guess it's turned into more of a podcast type deal. And we've also pulled in some of our best technicians watching them. Specifically, one of them here in Ohio, up in the Piqua area. He saw my videos and he liked how I talked about techs and how I was a tech and how I treat techs and how I'm a firm believer that you should always put your techs first. And that brought him in. And, them guys that I've pulled in through there, they're 80+ hour a week billers. So they're hustlers. They want to be here and they want to do a good job. And that's 3 things just off of the last 6 months of putting them in there. That's turned into easily hundreds of thousands of dollars. Easily.
That's awesome. That's great. And if you don't mind me asking, what's the age of these techs that have been kind of watching these videos?
Between the ages of 30 and 40.
Yeah, that's kind of what I would expect. And this is a good segue into this talent and tech shortage going on. It's built in. It's systemic. It's not cyclical. I saw a stat. I think Fullbay published a stat in their report that they just produced that says 57% of heavy-duty shops are understaffed, and technician wages have jumped 10% last year. When you're hiring for a mobile business only that doesn't have a shop they can go into and be part of this team, how does that impact their willingness to sign up with you? It's basically like working remote, right? Where you're up in the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, and they're hundreds of miles away.
Well, we've really never had that many issues with getting techs. We've always had, I don't know, I really don't know where that comes from, because I know everybody always says they have problems finding techs and being understaffed. I mean, we have the opposite of that problem. I have a lot of people that want to work for me. The only reason I can think of is because I am a tech owner and most people aren't tech owners. As far as managing people from a distance, I mean, it's pretty easy to tell when you have techs that are doing what they're supposed to on the ground and not doing it on the ground, just based off of what they're pushing through on a daily basis. I mean, there's not a single person outside my VP of sales. There's not a single person in my entire organization that was not a tech on the ground. And that's the one thing I tell everybody when I hire them is like, look, man, we're all techs, so you cannot BS us. Like, if you're going to try to BS us, we're going to see through it immediately. So whenever somebody is being dishonest from a distance, hundreds of miles away, we can see it instantaneously. And then we just immediately go for corrective action, or, we just find somebody else.
Got it. From the kind of the money and the financial architecture side of things, what is the single biggest bottleneck to growing faster right now? Cash, techs, trucks, or customers?
Just shortage of cash. That's it. I could be growing at 50% month over month right now if I wanted to, if we had the cash to do it. And we know we can do it. We're saying no to customers every single day. If it's a net 30, net 45, anything net 45 and net 60 for me right now has been off the table. Mainly because we're growing so fast, we're spending the cash faster than it's coming back in. Naturally, it's going to happen when you're growing at the rate we are. Like, that's a given. Which is where we try to focus on the FMCs, that turn cash back in faster. 72 to 48 hour pay helps out a ton. But yeah, that's really the biggest bottleneck I would say almost everybody in this industry is facing who's trying to grow is just cash. I mean, getting trucks, sure, but you can solve the truck issue pretty immediately just by calling a company like PTR, Enterprise, whatever, get a rent a truck until you can get your truck set up. Getting techs, like I said, I know that's a problem for a lot of people. I have a buddy up in Wisconsin. His biggest problem is finding techs. I don't have that problem whatsoever at all. Our biggest problem is just cash, like just getting the cash back fast enough. Like, we're constantly sitting, I don't want to say the number, but we're sitting really high with our numbers in AR all the time, just waiting for the cash to recoup. I mean, it is what it is. It's part of the game.
Yeah. And what kind of terms are you offering for somebody to pay in 48 or 72 hours?
That's usually FMCs. So places like Home and Wheels, Donlin, FleetNet, Element, stuff like that, they all pay within 72 hours. Anything that goes through Auto Integrate, for the most part, pays within 72 hours. And then we also, we offer the typical net 10 with like a 2%. Even Full Bay has that as a regular old option.
Yeah. I actually have a client right now in the space that their accounts receivable is extending 60, 90 days, and it puts them in a really tough position with their vendors and having to extend those payables out. So I can see why you're doing that, and I can see why cash is the biggest bottleneck to growth right now. Competition in the industry. So Ryder went from 0 to 200 technicians across 20 states in under 2 years by acquiring companies. I think they did Pit Stop Fleet Service for $24 million. They're buying companies, like you guys. Who are your biggest competitors out there? Is it the Riders of the world? Talk a little bit about that.
The biggest competitor, I would say, for me, there's a few of them that are trying to roadblock me. Like, we know Cox has done blitzes against us. We know Ithaca's done blitzes against us. As of recently, there's one company out east. I don't want to say his name because I don't want to turn into that guy, but he's deliberately trying to do everything he can to stop me by calling all my technicians, offering them $60 an hour, just trying to make me bleed and cause me problems, have to put out fires. Yeah. But I'm not even that much worried about them. They're so much smaller than us at this point. Like, they're just a thorn in my side. But as far as competitors, I really don't think we have many competitors because there's nobody that's performing at the level that we are. I firmly believe if I had an unlimited balance sheet backing me, we could absolutely explode this into oblivion. Just with certain contracts and partnerships we have like, I think it was like $12.9 million sitting on the line. If I had the money to front it, I could take it tomorrow. But I don't have the money to front that. 18 trucks is a lot of trucks. That's a lot of money, and that's a lot of people to get really quickly, which I think we could arrange the people, but just fronting 18 trucks worth of money is an insane ask for somebody our size. Now, if you had the right backing behind you that didn't, blow your legs out from underneath you and force you to give away the whole company to do it, then that's one thing. But that's far few and in between nowadays. But yeah, I mean, our biggest competitor, I think, right now is just ourselves. Like we got to be able to stay tamed and not get ahead of ourselves and grow ourselves out of business, for lack of better words.
Yeah, makes sense. And let's kind of hop into this vision and closing piece. You're in 13 states. Obviously, you're doing well now. Where does Whitestone need to be in the next 3 years for you to feel like you've kind of truly won the first 6 years of your growth cycle?
Well, in my mind, I've already won. My 5-year goal was to get to $250,000 when I first started all this. So that was a far, far undershot goal, and I just didn't realize it. Right now,
$250,000 in what?
5 years for a year.
But,
that's how.
But is that in like EBITDA or gross profit or like what?
That was just revenue. That was my goal when I first started in revenue. I didn't realize, because when you work at a lot of these big places, they always try to undervalue the tech and tell you don't make nowhere near as much money as you think you did. Like my last year at Cox, they told me when I asked for a raise, I was making less than $150,000 a year. And I'm like, oh, crap, really? I didn't realize that. Well, that's what I based my whole goal around, was the customers I was working. I was like, well, they said I made less than 150. Okay, here we go. And then you start actually doing it yourself, and you're like, dude, these guys were lying like crazy to me.
Yeah.
Come to realize I was making 150 grand a month. Well, yeah, I mean, that just is what it is. But no, the 3-year goal right now is in 6 years. Realistically, we're trying to get into the point where we can get PE acquisitioned right now. And it's not because like I want to financially, it's more of, we're all human beings and anything can happen at any point in time. I could have a brain aneurysm, somebody could run a red light, knock me out, turn me into a vegetable. So the whole point of that for me on this first round of PE, which is I want to do like at a 49-51 type deal, is to make it to where no matter what happens to me, that my family is secured. And that's my whole goal around the first transaction. The second transaction would be pretty close to what you're talking about. That 7-year goal mark is what I have it down as. And that's to, ride this out for 7 years with somebody, hopefully turn around and make a big deal at the end of it and make a ton of money. That's the whole goal.
Got it. And, let's just say somebody gave you just any amount of money, $10 million to go and build a national platform and compete with some of these other folks that maybe have more capital than you to get into space, right? They exist out there. I know them. I talk to them. What would be the first thing you do to kind of really build out this national platform aggressively? Is it trucks? Is it, recruiting technicians? What is that?
The first thing I would do if I had that much money would be immediately get on the phone with some of our partners that we have that are helping us with work, like they supply us work, would be get on the phone with them and say, basically, where is your biggest pain point? We want to solve it for you, and then work on a map out from that. Like I said, we have one customer right now that wants 18 trucks within the next 30 days, and we just don't have the capital to do it. If I had $10 million behind me, I could do that instantly, knowing it's a $5.9 million return with a 5-year track record of it paying that year over year over year over year. So, and that goes through their portal, so we can see it. So that would be where I would go first, personally, because not just that, you're left with a bunch of money left over, and you can start to see that gives you so many anchors everywhere that throughout the country that's guaranteed at 50 to 100 hours a week.
Yeah, I got it. And then let's just say somebody has, been running a mobile shop, pick a place in the country, it could be anywhere. I mean, excuse me, an in-shop service business, and they want to get into mobile, maybe 2 to 3 trucks, the last 10 years of their work before they kind of get out and sell the company. What's the single most important thing to get right?
In the beginning, if you're trying to start a mobile company, the very first thing you should get right is communication. That is by far the number one problem in every single mobile company. It's real easy to communicate when somebody's coming to a shop and they're standing in front of you at a desk. But it's 1 a.m, it's pouring down rain, you're soaking wet, and you just got done with a truck. You just want to go home and get out of those clothes and relax. And a lot of people forget to communicate. Even today, even at Whitestone, every mobile company is the exact same problem. Everybody has problems getting their text to communicate 100% of the time. Now, that being said, I think Whitestone has bridged a lot of that gap by us drilling it into our people's heads every single day. But that is by far the number one problem, I would say, across every mobile industry. When we go and we're talking to somebody where another person, say they're using, the Rushes of the world, the Prestiges of the world, the F&Ms, whoever it may be, the Deaton Fleets, the number one complaint we always hear is the communication is poor. Every single time. It's not always about the tech on site. Sometimes it is, but most of the time it's not. It's usually just about, man, the communication sucks. And then that comes second to, well, they're just overpricing. They're overpricing everything. When they look at our price compared to their price, like, well, why are you so much cheaper than them? Well, we don't do this, and that's why.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Lenn Isaac, Whitestone Fleet Service. Thank you for joining. Will I see you at in Phoenix in May? Will you be there?
At Diesel Connect?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Look forward to grabbing coffee, maybe a beer with you. I appreciate you having the time and coming on here. We'll talk soon.
Yes, sir.